What's going on, my fellow wealth creators? Matty Ice here. Welcome to another training. We are going to have another awesome conversation with Jeff Campy from Wealth Energetics. Always a pleasure to have you, man. We always have really good conversations. Always look forward to it. And today we thought it'd be a good idea and fun and valuable if we talked about our journey getting into the life insurance business a little bit. And not necessarily to encourage people to get into the life insurance business necessarily, but Jeff, you and I were talking a little bit before we went live, and how with the journey that we've been on and what got us into this business, like one of the big reasons we did was because of how awesome this asset is, this vehicle known as dividend paying whole life insurance. And there's just so much power around it. It gives us so much control. It gives us back so much control of our finances in our lives and allows us to accelerate the wealth building process, which naturally just leads to a much more satisfying life. We're able to reach our goals and live the life that we want to live and provide the life that we want to for our families and impact our communities that much better and show up in our lives and businesses so much better, et cetera. Right. And I just thought it'd be really cool to talk a little bit about our journey getting into this business, what inspired us, and why we're so passionate about something like whole life insurance. And while whole life insurance is just a vehicle, I think actually what we're most passionate about is the end result of getting a whole life insurance policy, a custom design for your specific goals. I think that's actually what we're passionate about. The vehicle doesn't really matter, so to speak. It's what that vehicle does, and that I think we're so passionate about. So, yeah, let's get into it, man. First off, just really appreciate your time as always. And why don't you kick us off here and tell us, give me kind of the background of what got you. What inspired you to get into the business? Why are you so passionate about whole life insurance and what it does? What is it about this vehicle and industry that inspired you to start down this path?
Yeah, awesome. I love being here. Thanks for having me on again. I love our conversations and wish it could be in the DR like we were a few weeks ago.
Yeah, man. Always can't be the DR.
I know, man.
That was awesome. Soon enough, though. Soon enough. We'll be there soon enough again.
Yep, for sure. So yeah, my story, I got to kind of go back to the early days to really build and, give an accurate framing of how certain things in my life have brought me to this point. Because if I just shared like the end story and the life insurance, it probably wouldn't make as much sense.
Right.
So for me growing up, like a lot of kids, you develop acne, like in middle school time frame, right? And mine had progressed to what they called cystic acne. And I still got like some scars here on my cheeks where it was like big cysts that had formed. And that was something I dealt with for a number of years. And then as I got out of high school, I had found some information about like natural ways to handle that. And I'd always questioned, like, why did I have this going on? Like dermatologists could never really give me the answers for it at a satisfactory level. They really didn't have an answer for why I had it. And then I came across some information that, they were saying like, well, you don't have a headache because you have an aspirin deficiency. And I'm like, well, that kind of makes sense. Like there's maybe a deeper reason behind what's going on in my body. So long story short, I don't want this to be about that, but that's relevant because it was the first time in my life, I was 18 years old at the time, that everything that I knew up to that point, I had like an epiphany moment. I had this moment where like a new world had opened up to me that I didn't know even existed before, right? Before reading this book, I didn't even know that there was other options. Like I saw the world from my viewpoint. And so I took some supplements, I did some cleanses, and literally in 2 weeks, all the acne had cleared up. And I'd been dealing with it from 5th and 6th grade where it started all the way through, high school. So you're talking like 6 years of dealing with this. And then in a matter of like a couple of weeks, it's literally all gone.
No,
that was like next level. Like there wasn't just a new world that opened up. It was like a new galaxy that opened up, right? It was just like, oh my gosh, there's answers outside of what I thought I already knew.
And what, what you're traditionally taught and what all these other experts are telling you need to do, et cetera.
Exactly. So it was like this first cognition moment for me of like, I can challenge what I've been taught from any place. I have that ability. There's probably other answers out there. And so fast forward a little bit, my wife and I got married in 2013, and we were down in Florida for a bioenergetics seminar. We were, checking time from hotel to hotel from where we were staying to where the event was. And we're doing that the night before, and we got struck on foot by a car directly. And my wife took the brunt of it. I got flung into the side. I had some head trauma. My wife had broken leg. And that set us up, financially for, some real hardships that, still affect us, in some ways today, repairing all the different things that, took place. And, insurance came through, it was still on our car insurance. It came through, but it was a year later. So what do you do for a year to survive when, you can't work? And we, recently got married, we don't have all of our ducks in order. Right. So I went through a number of years where, I wasn't providing well for my wife. And then a couple years later, we got pregnant and had our son. So, I wasn't doing a great job of providing, and I felt very overwhelmed. I ended up getting back into a lawn and landscape business that I'd done since I was 13. And because I knew that business, I could go get work, I could pay the bills, and at least feel better about being a man and a provider. And, but at the same time, it was still nagging inside of me, knowing like, I've got a family. I need to provide for them. I need to plan for the future. Right. I mean, at some point I'm going to want to retire. At some point I need to provide for college or, whatever. I want to have nicer accommodations, living and lifestyle for my family. Right. Like you have this idea of how you want to provide. And I wasn't living up to that. Right. And I felt like I needed to basically make 3 times as much money as I was. 1 to pay off the debt, 1 for living and lifestyle in the here and now, and then a third just to get ahead, right? Because the way I saw it, our finances were so constricted at that point that it's like, I know I should be saving. I literally don't have enough to save because it's all going to pay off debt, right? And trying to get that elephant off our back. And so it's like, how can I get ahead? So then every year that would go by, it's like, well, I'm even further behind planning for the future. And I don't want to have to sacrifice money that I need right now in my cash flow to put away for 40 years. Cause that paradigm never resonated with me. Even before I got into finance, I didn't resonate with some of those core principles just at a core level. And fast forward to spring of 2018, we were doing our taxes. Our accountant was somebody that we'd known for a number of years. We were both involved in a personal development organization together. And she's like, hey, you should check out the seminar. It's like around wealth creation, life insurance, and, you should just go. So I did. And I heard the infinite banking message for the first time, and how to use dividend paying whole life insurance, cash value life insurance as a vehicle that solves multiple purposes throughout your life.
Right.
And it was the first time I'd ever heard that you can use the same dollar multiple ways, that I could put $1 into an instrument and be getting benefits, like in that case, to pay off debt at an accelerated rate, be planning for my future, but also taking care of my family in case something happened to me. Because we'd come off a traumatic event where it easily could have happened. Neither my wife or I, or one of us, wouldn't have woken up from that accident. We could have easily been taken out from that car.
Sure.
So it was very real to me that you never know when your time is going to happen. If that car was going 5 miles an hour faster, my wife or I might not be here. Right. Yeah. Like it's reality. So to know that I could put money into something and be growing wealth for the long term, have access to that money, could be using it to pay down debt. But I also know that that's working towards retirement as well. It's building some cushion there, some stability there.
Right. While you're using it to help pay off your debt, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We use that. I'll be straight up. We didn't use it as good as we could have. We weren't great about paying it all back. We weren't super strict with it. We were kind of in a chaotic mode at that point. Sure. Like we just needed money from somewhere to pay some bills. Like that was kind of where we were at. Right. But we set that foundation in place, and we started putting away, I think, around 30% of our income into a policy. And I've been doing that for 7 years. I'm coming up on my 7th year here in like a month and a half, about a month. So that's been a game changer, because there's no other way that I could have saved that kind of money and had it still growing for me for my future in any other instrument. Right. And still access the cash, still used it to help get out of debt. And, we're pretty much most of the way out of all that, which is a big blessing. But so for me, I don't have like a financial number that I can say, oh, it's benefited me this much financially, but it's been more on a broad scale of it served functions in my life that I needed it to do. And I only had to put my money in one asset to accomplish multiple objectives that I needed to do. And that's why I became a customer first, that was what I needed. I needed a place for my money to do more for me, because I didn't have the capacity to double myself, triple myself, and try to earn 2 or 3 or 4 times as much income at that point. I mean, sure, could you implement marketing? Could you hire employees? Like, I get all that, but in the moment, it was like, that's the feeling I had, and this instrument met that need that I had of putting money to work and planning for the future, and having that death benefit to back me up, that if lightning struck again, I know for a fact my family's taken care of, not for a year, not for 6 months until my wife's got to go get 2 jobs to make up. Like, they're literally taken care of, for the foreseeable future. My kids' college education is paid for.
Yep.
Living and lifestyle is paid for. Like, everything's taken care of. And like, for a man, a new father, relatively still new husband at the time, like, that was a big deal. Not financially, didn't make an instant impression in my bank account.
Sure.
It made it a big impact on me and my mentality, my ability to go produce, to know that I've got multiple needs taken care of, multiple boxes are checked right now that I really needed to have checked in my life, to just feel like I'm providing at the level that I want to feel like I'm a good dad, to feel like I'm a good husband, to feel like I'm responsible, feel like I'm planning ahead for the future. Like, those are all really significant things at that time.
Sure.
And this instrument of cash value life insurance fit that for me. So, I know there's comments that we'll get, when we do videos, that, oh, you're just a life insurance salesman. No, the frick, I'm not. I am the farthest thing from a life insurance
As Chris would say, there are far easier things to sell than whole life insurance. Yep. It is not about that at all.
Exactly. So,
and real quick, I just like, I gotta speak to what you were saying just now, because I about all of the external benefits. Like one of the things I'll ask people is, like, all the things that you're saying about how you show up better as a father, like knowing that your family is taken care of, you're solving multiple problems with one instrument here, and like the internal peace that it gives you, and allowing you to show up better in other areas of your life because you have all of these other problems solved now. What's the rate of return on that? How do you calculate that?
Yeah.
Right. Because as we know, I mean, we've talked about this before, like, people get so fixated on the internal rate of return on these policies. And you hear the likes of Dave Ramsey say that whole life insurance is terrible. It's a terrible investment, which it's not. And they're only focusing on rate of return, and they're not thinking, they're not telling the other side of the story from the vantage point of, like, all the other things, all the other benefits that something like this policy gives you. And it's the external rate of returns. You have the internal rate of return of a policy, and that's a bonus. That's great. But what's the external rate of return as well, and what it allows you to do from a productivity standpoint, from a standpoint of showing up better for your family, your spouse, whatever. Like, just that internal piece, man, I think is so underestimated and overlooked when it comes to these policies. Like, it gives you so much peace of mind, in addition to all the amazing things that you can do to build wealth. So I wanted to point that out really quick. I think that's just a really, really powerful part of the story there.
Yeah, totally agree. And I like to break things down, further. And, what you're saying there, what I said was, there's the intangible things. It's, I show up better. Like, well, what does that actually look like? Like, what is the mechanics of that? How do we get into that? And it's like, I know for me at the time, it was just like so overwhelming and crushing to think I have really no way to get out of debt. I'm not providing enough even for meeting all of our bills and obligations at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not planning for my future. Like, I felt like an absolute failure. I felt like a schmuck of a husband, a father, a provider. Like, that's how it felt. And when you're in that mode and feeling those things, you don't go to work. You're not more productive. If you're doing physical labor, you're not going to be lifting more drywall. You're not going to be banging more nails. You're not going to be mowing more lawns. Like, you are going to be less productive.
Yeah.
And then how you show up in your relationships, and you're in a crappy mood. You come home and you're in a crappy mood with your spouse, and there's lack of connection, and there's arguing, and it compounds that, right? I've been there. I've lived that. That's what happens. Then your health starts to decline because you're in a crappy mood. You don't care. So you go get pizza because you're hungry.
And you're
right?
stressed
You go
out.
get fast food. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not a fast food guy, but a lot of people, they go to fast food, they eat candy, they do that. Like, you are getting a trifecta against your forward progress.
Yep.
And when you can have an instrument like Whole Life come in and check those specific boxes, and you're not eliminating how you feel totally about being a provider and a husband,
Sure.
and like, it's not a perfect fix, right? But it's
Yeah. It
a
doesn't fix
major,
all of your problems. It's
right,
not an instant fix,
right,
but it helps because it gives you the
yeah,
foundation to solve some of these problems that are weighing you down
right.
and
You know,
adding
it's a
stress.
trajectory shift. Instead of going this way towards, you know, depression and bankruptcy and all this stuff, like, you're changing. It's a course correction thing. It doesn't mean you're instantly at a new destination, but
Right.
you're on a different road. You're on a different highway towards somewhere else. And that made a difference in how I showed up in my relationships. It made a difference in what I chose to eat and whether I chose to exercise. Like, it changes how you think and how you function. And that has a direct impact on all other areas of your life. So
Yep.
that's why I love the Whole Life message that we teach, because it's not about money. It's not about whole life. It's not about all those little things that people can get hung up on an argument in the chat on a video. It's reality. Life shows up for people in big ways, and it can be hard, and it can knock you down, and it can suck. And if you have an instrument that can help ease that and
Yeah.
turn the corner and get you in a different direction. I mean, I know just putting that policy in place, I mean, it was a little bit of a stretch financially. I mean, we had to kind of coast through a couple months, but we did it anyway. And just knowing that that was in place did so much just for, I mean, it wasn't like I never had a bad day. I never got in a down mood. It wasn't like it just fixed all, like we already said, but just the background of your thoughts, knowing like, I've got something in place that's building my future. It's not perfect. Right. It's not everything I want it to be yet, but I'm starting. And just beginning is such a powerful way to make a transformation in your life. Just putting something in place and knowing I've got an asset, I've got a tool, I'm making some changes. Sure. Do I need to clean up spending? Do I need to spend or, you know, get better at tracking a budget? Do I have other areas I need to improve? Like, of course you do. Right. But there's a major thing that's in place that for me just gave me like a bedrock of confidence and gave me a boost in how I felt like I was showing up for my family. Like you said, how do you put a number to that? I mean, if you actually put a number, if you could like zoom out and like, okay, if I didn't put this policy in place, where would my life be? And I'd probably be earning less money, right? I'd probably be having more health problems. So that would cost more, doctor visits, supplements, whatever that would be. Like, okay, maybe I need to go to relationship counseling. What's the cost of all those things? Like, if I stayed on that track, you know, you can be in a downward spiral and it can make a big difference versus I changed course. I'm growing in my business. I look back every year since we've had that policy in place. My income has gone up. Like, life is better. Relationships are better. Like, I'm improving. Would I have improved anyway? Maybe, probably. And it's all speculative, right? But there's a core thing there that was for me the right thing at the right time that showed up. And, you know, then once I saw it in my life, it's like, I want to share this with other people. I mean, really, it's all that story to come to that. Like, this is amazing for me. Well, other people I know need something like this, and maybe in a slightly different form for them. It may not be exactly the needs and the structure of policy that I use, but I know there's a ton of people looking for answers to get them out of a hell that they're living in.
Sure.
Right?
I mean, how do you not want to share something like that that's had such a massive impact on your life? And that's a huge part of why I got into the business. But a couple of things that you mentioned that I think are worth just diving into a little more detail. You know, it's interesting. Like, again, you know, we've said a couple of times now, like, how do you put a price on the extra money that you have made because these other problems have been solved? So the fact that you're able to show up better in your business or your job, whatever it is that you have, and you're more productive in that environment, what does that do to your income? So like, whole life insurance, it's not going to fix all your problems. Like, it's not going to fix all your money problems. Okay. Like, you were still in debt, you know, you still had to focus on increasing your income and things like that. Okay. So it's not going to solve those things directly, but it does have an indirect impact on those things because you know you have your foundation in place. You know that if something were to happen to you, your family is taken care of. You have the living benefits. Your wealth is growing every single year that you have this policy. So it's that forward momentum. Because there's power in momentum. And one of the quotes that always stuck with me from Tony Robbins was that the greatest motivator in the world is progress. So if you can stack wins that create this progress, man, that just builds on itself, it compounds, right? Or at least has the potential to do so. So if you're going to be saving money, right, that feels good, but why not save it in the most efficient vehicle and efficient way possible that's going to solve all these problems? So now that releases all of this mental baggage and stress and drain that's just weighing you down, and it's taking up your like that takes away from your productivity every single day, guys. So like if these are problems that need to be solved and a whole life insurance policy can do that, it's definitely something to consider, because like not just for the internal rate of return and all this, like how much tax-free retirement income can I get? Like, dude, that's just noise. I shouldn't call it noise. It's not noise. I mean, those are really good benefits, but I'm saying it shouldn't be the primary reason why you set these policies up. And I just think it's a little kind of short-term thinking when it comes to whole life. But like you're right, you can't really put a number. Like I would love, like if there was a way to track the increased income and productivity in the job, in the business or whatever, when you have these things settled, I think that would be amazing. But it's just something to think about, guys, because it solves so many problems. And I think about, Jeff, like, I mentioned Dave Ramsey earlier. We talk about Dave Ramsey a lot and how we are just not in alignment with that guy whatsoever. He does provide some good information, for getting people back on track. But, I think about like if you have a bunch of credit cards that you need to start paying off, right? And like if you think of like you're gonna check each one off. Like if you start with the lowest balance, you pay that off. That's really good. That feels really good because now you're building momentum. You feel like you're making progress. You want to keep doing it, which is then going to impact your productivity over here. Maybe that increases your income so you can pay the debt off even faster. And now you check another credit card off that you've paid off, like, and then another and another. So like you're checking these things off. It's the same thing with the whole life policy where you literally check off all of these problems that you are solving right now, like with one instrument, one vehicle. And you can't put a rate of return on that. I don't think. And the last thing I'll mention about that too is, since we're talking a little bit about different types of rate of return, like I consider myself the rate of return on these policies. Like, yeah, they're going to net 3 to 5% tax-free compound growth. That's great. Love that. But what is it going to do for me and my ability to increase my income and build wealth? Right? Because so we're talking about the productivity side of it, right? And how important that is. But also too, I can now, with that increased productivity, maybe I can learn now, I can now learn a different skill set, a different way of building wealth where I can borrow against the policy and accelerate the wealth building process, right? How do you put a rate of return on that? Like, so when I see IUL agents talk about, my IUL is going to outperform you by 2 points long-term or whatever. It's like, dude, you are completely missing the point here. Like that is not what we're trying to do. And it just, it doesn't speak very highly of, and it doesn't respect and recognize all the other amazing things that this type of foundation, that's what I want to call it here. It doesn't even have to be whole life, just whatever foundation you're putting in place that allows you to show up better in your life. You can't put a rate of return on that. And so I think that's a beautiful part of your story, man. I think that's really inspiring. Just the amount of impact that it had on you as a man, as a father, as a husband. Like you can't put a rate of return on that. And now it's inspired you to want to share that. So like I said earlier, like how do you not want to share that? And that is a very, very, very different reason for getting into this type of business than just wanting to make money. Because you can make great money in this business, just like you can make great money in any business, right? You do it right. But that is, for me, just such a much more powerful reason to actually get into this, is sharing this amazing vehicle that has had such a profound impact on your life. So speak to that a little bit really quick on like, so what is it specifically like I know there's like certain types of people that like a certain audience that you go after as well, that you just speak with and resonate with really good. So how do you see, I guess, maybe the next couple of years, like just sharing this, what's your motivation, your inspiration for getting into it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a little esoteric, I guess, as an answer, but I mean, it's very relevant because, when I had my world expand, when I learned about ways to handle health conditions alternatively, right? And you see a very profound result. And that way of thinking, I take into a lot of areas of my life, like challenge things, question things, look for better ways about going and doing things. And so for me, I've understood down through the years that, we're on a journey, we're growing, we're expanding. And for me, the message around whole life and a lot of the principles that are attached to that, it's not always about the life insurance, but there's just a lot of money principles, wealth principles that, kind of come along for the ride. For me, it's empowering people. When we can empower someone and take someone to a new level where they're, underperforming in their life. Like I was when, we had the accident and all that. Like you wake up every day with this like knowingness that I'm not living up to my potential. I'm not living up to my capacity. And to be able to help change people, and not just by selling them a policy, but there's a lot of mentorship. There's a lot of teaching and coaching that goes into this whole process that you basically, your client, it's not a one call close like we've been talking about on a couple other audios, and they're just another number on a paper. Like these are relationships that you want to change and help change aspects of people's lives that have probably been getting in their way for maybe their whole life. Right. Maybe it's generational. Maybe their parents did the same stupid stuff around money. Maybe their grandparents did the same stupid stuff around money, and they're determined to make a change, and they need not only a financial asset or instrument to come in and help, like I had a trajectory change, but having someone there, another set of eyes, a way to help, bring somebody around and realize their potential and be motivation to change and give them tools to actually do it, not just a bunch of lip service and motivation. So, for me, my motivation for sharing this with other people, and I like working with chiropractors and alternative health practitioners because like I had a big consciousness shift around health, and that very well paralleled over to money. When I learned about banking, infinite banking and whole life insurance, to me, they're very paralleled with using, herbs and homeopathics and bioenergetics and all this different stuff over here to handle your health conditions instead of drugs and surgery. It's very much the same. There's very many similarities between the industry of healthcare and the industry of finance, and what most people are taught, what's incentivized, what deep pockets are behind a certain level of marketing or education around that. And it's very hard to sift through to get to like a deeper level of truth that's something that empowers someone. So for me, it goes back to the empowerment part. If I can empower someone to make a change in their life that I know is going to affect their relationship, I know it's going to affect their health, I know it's obviously going to affect their finances. There's nothing more rewarding than that when you can help someone make a change, make a pivot, and get on a track to where they know that they're going to be able to hit a bigger potential. I know that some of these things become cliche, like your purpose and all stuff, but I mean, there's truth to it. It's something that so many people are seeking and they can't find it. Some people go through their whole lifetime. I mean, when my dad passed, he didn't feel like he had much of a purpose. I mean, some people literally don't ever find it, and it gnaws at them every single day that they're alive, that they can't dial it in. They can't find it. And if getting out of debt and helping someone use their dollars more efficiently with a policy can free them up enough to where they don't feel so bogged down, that they can have inspiration hit. They can be in a creative energy instead of a survival energy. Like, again, what's the external rate of return on that by having an asset in place that can allow you to do that? Like, that is so, I think of that as spiritual work. That's not just financial work. Like when you can make a profound, deep change in someone's life that affects their future, their kids' future. That's some powerful stuff.
It really is, man.
It's, I see what we do, not just as we're selling life insurance. I mean, that is so far from that. We're doing so much deeper stuff here with people that just, you can't ever put a price tag on like, okay, well, if, a client's kids and grandkids grow up in a different belief system around money, what's the ripple effect that they're going to have in the world 2 generations from now, and how they show up in the world and the money that they create and who they help, and are they able to be in line with their purpose because of the changes that their grandparents made financially. Like, and I was the catalyst to help the grandparents change, like that is so big, like you don't have to help that many people to have a big ripple effect,
It's almost hard to comprehend and wrap your mind around how just the massive ripple effect that one little thing like this can make. And that really is the most rewarding part. Like I'm right now I'm helping a friend of mine set up a policy for his 3-year-old daughter. And I remember getting on the Zoom call with him and his wife and just going through the illustration, like, hey, based on what you wanted to put in and how you wanted to fund the policy, this is what we're looking at. And, I walked them through like the various different stages of her life and like the big, large capital purchases and just major life events, and showing them how the policy would support her throughout her entire life and support her throughout all of these events, from buying her first car, going to college, maybe she wants to travel abroad for a while, when she's ready to start a family, buy a house, when she's ready to retire. Like, the policy is going to be there for her and just allow her to live in it. It's just that the foundation of it is so strong that it provides what people need in order to live the life, or it helps, it assists, right, in living the life that they want to live, and managing these different life events so much more effectively. And man, I got to tell you, at the end of the call, I almost teared up a little bit. It sounds, really cheesy, but I literally got chills afterwards, like just going through that and having that conversation with them, and just how impactful that is going to be for not just his daughter, not just their daughter, but their grandkids and their great grandkids as well. Like, you see the death benefit, like when you set these things up early and you see the death benefit that gets paid out, at 80, 90 years old, what that does for the family. It's just, man, you can't put a price on that. It's just incredible. And it's definitely the most rewarding part of the job. And, it's a big part of why I got into it as well. And because I had no plans of selling life insurance. I was doing my thing with my marketing agency. Things are good. And, but, I got to the point where I wanted to, I saved up a good amount of money because I had been so broke for so long. So I was naturally really, really cautious, conservative after that. And so my expenses did not increase very significantly at all with my income. Like, I kept my expenses very low because I was always, and it's still in the back of my mind to this day sometimes, where like, I never want to go back to that. So my main goal was to build this really strong foundation. And so, I could start putting that money to work. And that's what I started looking for. And I started going down the infinite banking rabbit hole. And I just like once I understood how it worked, like very similar to you, Jeff, where I saw the power in it. It's so freaking powerful. Like, it's in all the benefits that we get. Like, how do I not share this with other people as well? And then the flip side of it too was all the awful information that's out there that you have to be really, really careful of. I almost purchased an IUL. And if I had purchased the IUL, knowing what I know now, like if I didn't know that when I purchased it, man, that would have been a complete disaster for me. And I don't want that to happen to other people, because I know what those major financial mistakes look like and how that shows up in your life and what that can do to somebody. It can be absolutely devastating. And when you're at the bottom of the barrel, you know how bad that sucks. And then you get out of it. Like, you don't want anybody to go through that. It's just awful. And so it just inspired me to, one, I got to expose all this other crap that I almost fell for. And then I have to share this really powerful strategy that's going to allow people to show up better in their lives and really give them the financial foundation that we should all have. And, you mentioned a couple times where, like, very similar to the health industry, where a lot of the information that is provided to us is not always in our best interest. And there's deep pockets behind it, behind the marketing and advertising, and it's all about the money. when, but there's behind all that, there are better solutions, better ways of doing things that are much more effective and more efficient. We're just not taught these types of things because it's not profitable for us to know that to these major companies, right? And that was a big part of my journey, and like it was really frustrating for a little while. I went through my anger phase as I was going down this rabbit hole. Like, why on earth are we not taught these things early on in life? Like, even if you don't take advantage of it, at least know about it. Like, at least make us aware of it so that we can make a better decision or an informed decision. Maybe that is best for us. And it's like, man, I think about like if my parents had known about this and set this up for me at 5 years old or 3 years old or whatever, like how different life would be.
I know.
Having that foundation. And it's just crazy. Like there's such an inverse relationship between financial education and how much money how much wealth the system extracts from us. Right? That the more we understand how these things work, the less reliant we are on the system, the less wealth they're able to extract from us, meaning we keep more of our wealth, meaning we are able to live better lives, be happier. Because look, money doesn't necessarily make you happy, but it does solve a lot of problems so that you are happier, right? So you don't have as much stress and you're able to live the life that you want to live with your family and stuff. Like there's so much power in that. And sometimes all it takes is one idea, one shift in mindset, one shift in thinking around money that can change everything forever. And for me, like that was my journey going through this. And I was like, there's something higher at work here than me. All right. And I'm just the vessel here where I'm sharing the journey. I'm sharing like here is this amazing thing that we're not really taught very, very often. But here's what it can do for us. And if that makes sense for you, then you need to know about it. Like it has to come into your awareness in order for you to take advantage of it. And it's just, man, there's so much power in it. The most rewarding part of it is having those conversations, educating people, showing them like, hey, this is what this thing can do for you. And like just trying to wrap your mind around that impact. It's just, I can't imagine doing anything else right now, man. I'll tell you that. It's just freaking awesome.
Yep. I hear you there. You made me think of a mentor of mine in the life insurance world. He always talked about, and this parallels with health. Like you just mentioned, most of the time we're given, pick these options. These are your options. If you have a health condition, these are your options. If you want to put your money somewhere for the future, these are your options.
Right.
But what they're not telling you is that there's a whole other set of options that are behind the person's back. Like, and we want you to know about these options so that you're a well-rounded, educated consumer. And then you can make the best decision for you and what you want your money to do and what you want your future to look like. Like you be the judge of that. But as we've said so many times together and apart, that we're not getting the full story on so many things in life. I mean, you can track that to politics, you can track that to health and finances and everything. There's usually an agenda. There's usually a half truth. And I mean, much of what I see out in all the marketing outside of a handful of us guys that are not even all of us with Life 180, but Garrett and Caleb Williams and some of these guys, like there's not that many people that are giving all the information, like well-rounded and pointing out pros and cons and not giving half truths. And that's that's I think the part that does get all under a lot of our skin, that there is that manipulation being had out there. So, to be able to give people just facts and education like you see. And then at least I find a natural gravitation. A lot of people are like, I always thought something like this must have existed. Like that's been kept from us, because everybody has a general awareness that like, hey, the powers that be are not wanting us to maybe have all the best options. And there's reasons for that. So if people can finally, I know when I finally found this message and using the policy, it was like, there was this like deep, like, I knew something like this had to exist. I knew the wealthy must be doing something a little bit differently than what we're taught at the middle class level to do with their money. And it's going to give you a different result. And the results aren't apples to apples. They're not comparable necessarily of rate of return and, all this stuff. It's a different whole framework, a whole different way of going about money that resonates so much deeper with people, to look for efficiencies with their money, to other ways to pay off debt, other ways to grow money, other ways to have access to money. There's so many factors. There's so many gaps in a financial plan that life insurance can fill that.
Right.
So many strategies within strategies that it can help with people. And, you see more and more of those the longer you do this. And you're like, I know we've talked about, our agency owner, his father-in-law, that, used a policy for, healing some cancer and coming through that, and,
Yep.
Using it for debt. And there's all these different aspects that there's no other tool that fills that void, that fills that gap in a lot of different areas. I'm reminded of a firsthand scenario where my parents, a couple of years ago, my dad had done really well one year and he was already on Social Security, and he had to repay 50% of his Social Security because he earned too much.
Yep.
And there's strategies within whole life and elsewhere that you can have that extra taxation not be affected. Like There's little things like that aren't just about rate of return. It's a deeper thing here going on. And like you say, when you can, for me, help people at all out of those stages of life and fill a lot of those gaps, like that's a very powerful thing to be able to do.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I think about the ripple effect. Like I think about this all the time, where you help a family, you help one person, you help a family, you help a family, you help a community, you help a community, you help a city, you help a city, you help a state, you help a country, and it just, this positive momentum, it just builds on itself. And that's it's just one of the things that I always have in the back of my head. Like, it's not about whole life. It's not about the policy. It's not about making money. It's this ripple effect. That is the most rewarding part, because if it allows this particular family to show up better and be more productive and live a better life, well, that has an impact on everybody that they come into contact with in every aspect of their life. And what does that ripple effect look like? And it's just, man, it's just so much, it's so much bigger that and I think that's why, when I see stuff, when we were on the panel the other day, going through the ethos and GFI interview and stuff like that, where it's just all about the sale. The agents can get paid in the same day now. And it just, I don't think it allows the agent to appreciate what is actually, what the impact is that you're actually having on this person's life. It's so much more than just making a sale. So that's what I would finish up with, man. I'm starting to run a little bit out of time here, but I'll go ahead and wrap up with that. Anything you want to finish up with?
I mean, I did have a thought. I'll keep it very brief because I know you need to roll, but I'm thinking of everything we've been talking about here with the external rate of return. And here's, we just started talking about, some of the things that we see in the industry, and where some of that maybe isn't as value add, and there can actually be some harm in that. Right. And thinking of the opposite of what we've just been talking, or the inverse of that, is what is the ripple effect on the negative side when people are getting into products that aren't in alignment with them, or are dangerous, or aren't the right thing at the right time. And there's no greater framework, no greater strategy structure to help people know what steps to take in what order for a solid foundation, so you can build a financial life of confidence and security. And if you do the opposite of that to people, what is that negative ripple effect? And I think anybody that's listened to this point, you can take what we've already said and think about that. I won't go through all that. I know we're on a time crunch here, but that's very profound in the other way. And and there's unfortunately probably more people doing that than us doing what we're doing. And that is concerning, and that gets me motivated, because we need to be a bigger voice, and we need to help more people. And it's kind of crazy when you think about it in that terms. But I think those are my final thoughts. I mean, we've both got different journeys, and we both come to the same conclusion and utilize this tool in a powerful way in our lives. And we love sharing it with other people and helping other people. Yeah, man.
No, that's why we're going to continue having these conversations. So it's always a pleasure, Jeff. I always really enjoy our conversations, and definitely looking forward to the next one. Guys, I will tag Jeff's YouTube channel down in the description. Make sure you check it out. He has some really, really good content. So I'll put that down in the description. Of course, I'll have additional resources on life insurance, infinite banking, and all that stuff, just to help you along your journey. Because the key to this is doing your own research, educating yourself, right? so that you're able to make an informed decision about what's best for you. Right. So Jeff, again, really appreciate it. And I look forward to the next one. And until then, talk soon.
See ya.
All right, man.